Right now, let's talk about a story which I really should be on tomorrow because it's April the 1st, April Fool's Day tomorrow, you know, when all our bills go up and we're supposed to all find that funny. But this story is so laughable, so ridiculous, it should be April the 1st, except, of course, I don't think these stories shock us anymore. A toddler aged either 3 or 4 was suspended and kicked out of nursery after being accused, wait for it, of transphobia. This is absolutely extraordinary. This is data from the Department for Education showing that the child was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. This took place sometime in the 2022-2023 academic year at a state school, and statistics indicate that 94 pupils at similar primary institutions were suspended or permanently excluded for transphobia or homophobia in the same year. It includes 10 pupils from year 1, so you talk about 5-6-year-olds, 3 from year 2, and 1 child of nursery age. Let's talk about this with Joe Bartosch, who's an assistant editor at The Critic. Joe, thank you for joining us, but oh my God, what is going on? I mean, we don't know what this child said or did, but let's face it, given the madness of this trans ideology in many of our places of supposedly of learning, simply saying, no, that's a man and that's a woman, and refusing to play along with someone claiming to be a woman who clearly is a man, that would count as transphobic now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it would. I mean, in a way, I sort of love stories like this because they really show the madness of transgenderism for what it is. Yeah. And I mean, there's a reason that in the story of The Emperor's New Clothes, it's a child who points and says, no, that's, you know, the Emperor's in fact naked. And I think it's exactly the same thing that we can see happening here. You know, the brilliant thing about kids is they will sometimes tell the unvarnished truth. And yeah, it is very likely this was just a kid who said, that's a man or that's a woman, and somebody got offended.
Yeah, and no doubt they were given one of these books which are now completely the norm in primary schools and nursery schools, where they are pushed this idea of, you know, 84 different genders and non-binary this, and men can become women become men, and pregnant dads and the like, all this stuff, all utter lunacy, all political ideology, and vast majority of people don't agree with it, and everyone's a bit too afraid to say anything, and parents who do speak out end up getting, you know, accused of God knows what bigotry and goodness knows what. But when it's schools as well. But again, we're talking about, you know, transphobic abuse. I mean, disagreeing with someone. We know, you know, grown adults are losing their jobs in academia, in public sector, private sector, being, you know, forced out for saying, no, you're a man, not a woman, you can't come into my changing room, or refusing to accept the political ideology of trans. I mean, it's certainly something I'd be willing to lose my job for. I refuse to be made to pretend to lie, or to pretend to believe something I don't believe. But it is extraordinary that they're imposing this on children. But do you think that most adults, most parents, are gloriously, happily unaware of what children are being taught in school, in primary school, and even in nursery? Because this stuff has taken hold of educational institutes right from the very, very bottom.
Yeah, I don't think most parents do have a clue, and I would really urge anyone to check out their school's curriculum, to have a look at the books that are in the library. It is really concerning. There are a lot of activists out there who are sort of pushing this very aggressively. And what's particularly concerning is it's so destabilising. The idea, you know, telling a child who's just trying to make sense of the world, who's understanding categories, who's learning about sort of, you know, basic biology at that sort of age. Yeah. So to destabilise them by making them lie is really troubling. Yeah. And it sort of opens them up, I think, to to abuse, really, because how can they express themselves or talk clearly or think things through if they're shut down?
Yeah, indeed. And again, we use the phrase sort of, you know, oh, Orwellian is like 1984, an awful lot, but this really is, because this is what, you know, Winston Smith was forced to do. You had to pretend, you know, that truth was lies, war is peace, that you know, that thing that happened in the past that you knew only an hour ago had never happened. And this is what it did, actually, and this was all based on George Orwell and what was happening in the Soviet Union, where people had to genuinely pretend that things weren't as they actually were. And this is incredibly sinister, and it's soul-destroying and psychologically breaking for adults. But for children, this is, I mean, let's call it what it is. This is child abuse.
Yeah, it is, and it's dystopian. I mean, I often think we're sort of living in a world that's half 1984 and half Brave New World in
Yeah.
terms of the way things are going. And yeah, it's destabilising, it's abusive, and I think the sooner we get this ideology out of schools, the better.
Absolutely to that. Assistant Editor of the Cricket, Joe Bartosch, thank you very much indeed for that. Sam Armstrong,